Why did you go all in? Like, what was for you the moment where you said like, oh shit, like that thing is bigger and I need to go like with everything in there?
For me, Bitcoin stood out in the cryptocurrency world different to the rest because it was actually an alternative money, where the rest to me were just a quick money pump, get rich quick scheme. And Bitcoin to me had the opportunity of a lifetime in the sense of a savings account for the future. And so I was getting to the age where, people start talking about saving for a house, saving for even for a nice car, things like that. And I wanted to go, what can I save for the longest period of time? Something that I can hold for say 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And all the other cryptos to me could not give me the belief that they could be around in those timeframes. There was no evidence for me to see Ethereum survive that time as a store of value and maybe as money. Other things like Cardano, XRP, they were all interesting, but to hold their value, it needed more than that, than to just be a technology, just to be a new idea. It needed to be entirely a new protocol. And so I think Bitcoin to me is the internet money on top of the internet. It has the ability to be like gold, but strip away its physicality and become digital gold. And so, yeah, I just found Bitcoin in a whole a lot more interesting than other cryptos.
Yeah, but did you consider something outside of crypto? Did you ever consider like real estate, stocks, gold, anything that where you're like, okay, like maybe something like non-digital like gold or like even stocks like a company or real estate even to like have some income?
No, I think because when I first invested in crypto, I was around 17. And so I hadn't really even had a chance to experience the world, get a full time job, start chasing things that are quite generic, especially in Australia. Like Aussie property here is so generic to just be the main focus. I think a lot of Australians wouldn't even look at stocks, wouldn't even really look, they might look at gold, but to be honest, it's really just property. And so the status quo is just like get Aussie property as soon as you possibly can and then try and pay it off as fast as possible. Whereas for me, I didn't even get a chance to look at that. It was just straight from crypto into Bitcoin. And then once you sort of go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, not that property is an enemy, but you sort of understand, hey, here's an alternative to maybe digital property, something that won't restrain you with physical property where people can confiscate it, people can tax it, high maintenance cost. You need to maybe get renters if you don't want to live there, and all these other aspects to real estate that I just went, no, thank you. I'm just going to stay with Bitcoin, Bitcoin only, and I'm going to ride this one out into the future.
I love that. And is that because I feel like that's very consistent actually with our generation, Gen Z. So like everyone, let's say under 28, I think is Gen Z. And so a lot of them say like, I might want to own my own home one day, but I cannot afford it anyways right now. And then stocks seem so, so old. The stocks doesn't seem like exciting enough. Maybe a little bit in Nvidia, maybe a little bit Tesla, but outside of that, it's like seems old. And having ETF and all those like fonts, like nobody cares about that. And so it all comes down to crypto. Is that something that you see also consistent with your generation? Because like the first time I asked you like, oh, like why are you all into Bitcoin? You just like described crypto and Bitcoin and not even like went into the other things. And I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like with our generation, they don't really even look outside of this digital asset sphere. I hate that word, but if we have to describe, explain it like that, is like they only look there and they don't even consider like buying a home or like getting into gold or like getting into stocks.
Yeah, well, I think for Gen Z, they're looking around, they're seeing assets have already reached all time highs and they already sort of feel like a bubble. And so, Aussie real estate, like an example, would be the median house price, like the average price in Australia would be over $900,000 a house. And so, when your average salary income earner is around 60,000 to 80,000 and you're trying to buy a $900,000 house, you start to think, oh my goodness, houses have just inflated away. They're in this huge bubble and I'm never going to afford the average house. And then you look at, say, gold, that's now reached all time highs, that's skyrocketing. And then you see stocks, Nvidia becoming the first $5 trillion company. And I think Gen Z is just going, why would I buy any of these things at all time high? But then you've got Bitcoin, where it's only a $2 trillion asset. It's nothing like gold. It hasn't caught gold in market cap in any sense. It's actually like, now that we've seen gold go on a run, it just absorbed Bitcoin's market cap like twice over in a few months. And I think they're looking for something else. And so I think crypto comes along and people go, all time high could look like what? A 10x, a 100x, a 1000x. These are very small market cap things. People are buying $1 million market cap, $10 million market cap. Even $1 billion market cap is still small. And so people might still see that there's room to grow, a lot of exponential growth. And so they chase things like a parabolic cycle, a huge bull run and altcoin season. All these things are extremely exciting where you can make, $100 turn into $10,000 overnight. That's what it feels like. And people chuck around euphoria, like you just feel like this is too good to be true. And people are just chasing those quick gains, the gambling gains, the speculation gains. And then Bitcoin's sort of this other beast where it's in that world, but it's also separate. And so it's like Bitcoin, but not crypto. And people might see that with an all-time high, but we've seen it trickle down. And so people might say, hey, there's more room to grow here, even again. And so to me, Bitcoin still feels early, and that's why I'm still interested in it. I think if I was looking at a $10 million Bitcoin, it could be a different story. But we're looking at a $100,000 Bitcoin, and to me, it's just the beginning. So
It's very, very, very true. Do you sometimes, like, I think we talked about that before, or like per chat about the gold run up this year. I was super surprised that it ran up that much, and as you said before, like it kind of was increasing as much as the Bitcoin complete market cap is, which is kind of fascinating. How do you look at gold and especially the run up that it had this year?
So, gold is something I didn't have my eyes on until Bitcoin. And so people compare the two because they're very similar in some sense as a store of value. And so I think America, especially, but the world in general, is waking up to the idea that the fiat dollar is backed by nothing. And so, leaving the gold standard in the US 1971, we start to see that these dollars are backed essentially by promises that have fallen short. The faith in the US, the faith in the US military. But when you strip that back, it's really just, air. It's backed by just thin air. And so to me, it feels as though the world is waking up to that reality and they're going, I can't buy as much as I could 4 years ago. And so this is fresh. It's not talking about, buying a house for $10,000 50 years ago. This is talking about 4 years ago, sort of the COVID period. People are noticing that things have gotten 40 to 50% more expensive. And so people are waking up to this idea that the fiat dollar is backed by nothing. And so that scares people. I think there's a lot of fear in the markets. There's a lot of fear across the world where they're trying to buy something that's physical, which would be gold. And so they're fleeing to gold first before Bitcoin. They like that it's tangible. They like that they can feel it, they can touch it. And they understand the main thing would be that the governments can't just print gold. They have to go mine more gold. They have to find more ways to get gold. And so we saw the viral video on X where there's literally, I'd say, thousands, if not tens of thousands of people lining up to buy gold in Sydney. And that's happening everywhere where people are just freaking out, understanding that their savings account is at risk, maybe not from freezing or seizing the money, but rather just getting printed away and getting inflated away. So the more they print more money, the dollars you're holding in your savings account are worth less. And so to me, people are waking up to that reality. And for Bitcoin to fall behind in gains this year and to actually be outperformed by gold to a degree that just shows where us people are at, understanding that Bitcoin is still a speculation to a lot of people. And so I don't expect it to necessarily catch gold's market cap anytime soon because people still want to go to, the shiny gold rock that worked for 5,000 years. Like, why would you want to trust something that's maybe only 16, 17 years old? It just doesn't have that history. And so I understand it. It's just, what's going to be the fastest horse? And we're betting on Bitcoin, whereas they're betting on gold. And so it'll take time, but I think the world will wake up to, hey, gold is there's flaws to gold that Bitcoin has fixed, and that to me is the physicality of gold. You know, you can't transfer it across seas in a matter of seconds. You can't divide it up easily, like things as simple as that. And so, yeah, it's going to take time, but Bitcoin should follow. And I just wanted to mention, so like less than a year ago, around 11 months ago, there was 40 gold ounces to one Bitcoin at around the same price it is today, around 106,000. And so now today with Bitcoin's run, you've only got 26 ounces per Bitcoin. And so we have not even close to all-time highs to gold in gold terms, but we're in close to all-time highs in fiat terms. And so if you just change what you're measuring in, if you're measuring in fiat terms, yeah, we've only fallen 16% from 126,000. But if you're measuring in gold terms, we've fallen something like 35%. And so it's actually crazy when you change your measurement stick of value from fiat to gold. Bitcoin's nowhere near its all-time high. And so to me, we're still going to see quite a bullish December, January, February, and maybe even a whole 2026. And to me, maybe the 4-year cycle could be over, just going off Bitcoin against gold. I don't know if you agree with that idea, though.
It is so interesting because, I mean, there are a lot of different topics in there. I start with that. I think Bitcoin hasn't done what people expected it to do this year. Like, not at all. Like, we are basically now, I always made the comparison in the last couple of months that, like, oh, the last 12 months we're up significantly still. And also year to date we're up, but I think this slowly is no longer true. I mean, today we're actually up almost to 106,000 again. And we were just like yesterday, 100,000 or something like that. So like the past year, we're up still 34,000, and year to date, we're up still 34,000, 34%. And year to date, we are 13% up. And so we're still like up, like it's like in fiat terms, we're still up, but I think it feels low and it feels bad because, as you pointed out, we're measuring it in a very bad measuring stick in the US dollar. And everything goes up in the US dollar. Like literally, like you can, if you buy the right car, it goes up in US dollars. If you buy the right watch, it goes up in US dollars. If you buy the right thing, like it's crazy. You can buy anything and all of a sudden it goes up in US dollars because the thing actually holds value and the US dollar obviously does not. And so I don't know how you look at the general kind of sentiment that we currently have. It seems almost like we are now in a bear market in Bitcoin. And so if that's true, maybe 2025 is almost already a confirmation that the 4-year cycle is dead. I mean, now we are still up. So if we are ending up at this price at the end of the year, we are still probably in a positive year. And so let's see where we really end up, what we are doing with this year. I think this year will not be, will be probably still a confirmation of the 4-year cycle, but I have a weird feeling that 2026 will be a huge positive year in Bitcoin. But it's just a feeling. It's not like I don't have data to support that. Obviously, like nobody has data to support such a claim. But how do you look at the low Bitcoin sentiment and this 4-year cycle that kind of seems to be at the end of what we are doing right now?
Yeah, it's an interesting debate right now whether the 4-year cycle is actually over or still in play, because it was sort of around, I'd say, October, November, when it's meant to be like the decision. The 4-year cycle, is it over? Are we going to see green after this when it should be red? Are we going to see red when we're expecting red? And we've sort of seen the red that the 4-year cycle would indicate. But I would say the 2021 end of the bull run, where it sort of got cut short with the FTX collapse, to me, that bull run could have been bigger. The extent could have been bigger because Bitcoin was really on a momentum run where people were waking up to this idea of the fiat dollar just being printed, and they wanted to find the money that couldn't be printed, which was Bitcoin. And now we've got this cycle where it's more people are waking up to that, but then you've also got the big players that are joining the game. And so you're removing human emotion out of the picture to a degree. Now, it's obviously not enough where Bitcoin just stays a stable price and goes up forever. We're still seeing these huge dips. But I think as we strip back more and more emotion as time unfolds, we're going to see Bitcoin's bottom price just lift and lift and lift. So every time it comes down, it's not going to go down as much. And so we might see a red year next year, but I can't see an 80% drawdown. I can't see these big, big dips where it's like, oh my goodness, this is the bear market. We're going to have 4 years of pain or 3 years of pain. I think it's going to be temporary dips, and I don't think they're going to be as big as 80. I think there's still maybe a 30 to 40% dip on the cards, but anything more than that, not necessarily that I'd be concerned, but I'd be going, okay, some of the big players that said they were locked in for a long period of time, Michael Saylor, BlackRock, these sort of players, they haven't kept to their word, and so that could really spiral into an absolute panic. And so that's why I can't see it happening. Like, you're going to ruin themselves as fund managers, but you're also going to ruin yourself as a company, like strategy. And so, yeah, I just think it's interesting. Once we remove emotion out of the market, do we just have a stable price? Do we just see green for the rest of Bitcoin's history to an extent? But to me, I still really think 2026 is going to be a green year. I've been wanting to say it more and more on podcasts just so that if it does happen, I look like a genius. And if it doesn't happen, I'll just disappear into the shadows. So, nah, I'm not sure.
It's like make as many predictions as possible, make it on camera, and then pick the winners and show them in the clips a year
Exactly.
later. But I have something here, and I'm curious what you think about that, because we always look at the all-time highs. We always look at the thing, and you brought something really interesting up. We're bringing the base up, and this is basically like the base of each year, so that chart is the Bitcoin yearly lows. And so it shows of each year of Bitcoin existence, what was the lowest price within that year. And like, obviously, like I think the chart starts here from 2012 with $4, then $13, $300, $100, 300, 700. And so last year, we had the lowest possible was under 40,000. And this was like 10,000 more than we had in 2021, which was the highest in that regard. Now, 2025, to this day, we didn't have a lower price than 76,000 US dollar. And this is, for me, a lot more interesting to look at if we're seeing that we have almost double as high of a yearly low than we had the previous year. And if I think next year, I have a weird feeling that we'll never really go under the 100K. Like, I think there's such a huge resistance with that price point that people, as soon as it's hit 100K, or as soon as it hits like 99 or 98K, people are just gobbling up all the Bitcoin. Yeah, they're like, I'll buy really aggressively. And so I have a weird feeling. Again, it's just a feeling. It's just something that I observed. It's not real data, that I think next year will be quite a bullish year. And I think we will not hit the under 100K. We'll still can have a bad year. We can still have like a non-exciting year. But I think the base is just so strong in Bitcoin. We have so many corporations in Bitcoin that want to buy it. We have so many people and institutions that want to buy it. We have the ETFs. We have all of those things. I have a hard time believing that they just stop buying. It's almost impossible for me at that point.
It also seems like the sellers are running out. Like, I've seen on X, which is really the worst measurement you could use, but the sentiment is that it's a bear market, that it is time to sell, that it's time to leave the market, and it's just red, red, red. Like, the bears are out just spamming on X. And if all those people are genuine and are leaving the market and selling, and retail supposedly panicking and selling, and we're at $106,000. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, if that's the new panic bottom where we think we're crashing and we're sinking, that's such a good level to be. Like, it just seems like such a strong level around 100K. I know we dipped below it a little bit, but it seems like there's almost a buy order that the moment it drops below 100K, someone is just like eating that up. Someone's just, the moment they can get some cheap Bitcoin, they just purchase, purchase, purchase. And so whether that's the sailors of the world, whether that is Larry Fink himself, who knows? But I know it's you and I know it's me. And the more people that are waking up to Bitcoin, the level is just getting stronger and stronger and stronger, because once we go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, we can never go back to wanting to save in fiat dollars. Like, I can never want to go back to try and get as many Aussie dollars as possible. I just can't imagine the flick of the switch trying to go back. And so until Bitcoin goes to zero or gets destroyed from some end of the world event, then I'm never going to want to save in Australian dollars again.
The first thing that every Bitcoiner does, and the most important activity that every Bitcoiner keeps on doing, is buying Bitcoin. And I personally use Relay to buy and sometimes also spend or sell my Bitcoin. And there are two main reasons why I do so. The first one is it's Bitcoin only. They do not do any shit coins. They do not do any cryptos, any stocks, or anything else. This is a tool, an app that is fully focused only and solely on Bitcoin. The second one is self-custody. They give you the keys to your Bitcoin the moment you buy them. You never give them the control over your Bitcoin, and you don't have to trust them because you can verify that you and only you have the keys to your Bitcoin. There's no third-party risk. There's no freezing of your assets. There's no rug pulling. There's nothing of that. Download Relay, the app, on your phone, or go to relay.app on your browser and use code Robin to save fees and get cheaper Bitcoin. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called micro seed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With micro seed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because MicroSeed is not selling the washer. MicroSeed is selling the device that stamps the washer. You get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today, and you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io.